Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life.
Welcome back to Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life show. Our next guest is Amy Shever. She's the director and founder of Second Chance for Pets. It is a nonprofit awareness group, and I want you to pay attention because we'll get the link in and everything. Second, a 2ND, chance, the number 4, pets. And she is here to unleash some tips and strategies on how your pets would be cared for should you be unable to provide care due to an illness or, yikes, die. I promise that this is not a downer topic. It is a much needed topic for all of us lucky to have a pet or more in our lives. So without delay, let's give pause and applause to Amy Shever. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for letting me talk to your audience about this very important topic. With the pandemic recently, we've seen an increase in the number of animals surrendered to shelters and rescue groups simply because their owners have either have passed away or ended up in nursing homes. So it's really important for people to think about this topic and figure out what they want to do for their pets.
I agree. And we're going to get back to that favorite topic all of us have about the pandemic. But first, let's bring it home. What the heck is Second Chance for Pets? And I know you've been doing this for a number of years.
Exactly. Well, I used to volunteer at the animal shelters in Northern California. And what was very frustrating is when people would come in and say, oh, my dad just passed away. Here's his dogs or his cats. And, these animals had been well cared for. And, unfortunately, animals who have been sleeping on someone's bed or sitting on someone's lap are used to a lot of attention. Yeah. So when they get to the shelter, it's a very overwhelming experience. And unfortunately, and shelters are overwhelmed.
You live in Ukraine, you live in a house. Now you're carting your pets across a border, hoping that Poland, Romania, or some other place will let you in, and everything is disrupted. And pets like us are sentient beings. They do feel joy. They do feel worry. They do feel pain, right?
Exactly. And, there's some very simple things people can do to make sure that if something happens to them, that their animals don't end up at the shelter, that they end up with someone who will provide care for them, whether it's temporarily, short-term, or long-term. But it's really important to think about this topic and figure out what makes sense for your pets.
Well, I want everybody after the show to go to secondchanceforpets.org. There is a slew of resources there. But I also know you have something maybe you can tee us up with. What are some 3 biggest mistakes we pet parents make when it comes to thinking we've got a game plan for our pets should they outlive us?
Well, the first and most important thing, and I might repeat this several times today,
please,
is having a committed caregiver. And that doesn't mean putting a will together and saying, oh, my sister is going to take the dogs or my neighbor is going to take the dogs. You have to actually have a conversation with somebody and make sure they are committed to providing love and care to your pets if anything should happen to you. And that means even if you end up in the hospital.
Yeah, you could be incapacitated for weeks, right? Or go temporarily to a senior care center while you recuperate, right?
Exactly. And that's why, having at least one person committed to, and they understand what the care requirements are, is so critical. And if every responsible pet owner had one backup person, an emergency contact, then so many animals would not end up at the shelter when something happened to their pet owner. So that's number one.
Okay.
The second thing is finances. I mean, we all know how expensive it is to take care of our pets, and that those costs have increased over the past several years with the shortage of veterinarians and shortage of ERs. So it's really important to think about, if somebody were to take over the care of the pets, how do I make sure that there's some kind of fund in place? Or maybe it's the life insurance policy. But what you don't want to do is have somebody take over your 2 cats or 5 dogs or whatever and not be equipped to being able to cover the cost of that care.
Yeah, that's really important. How about number 3?
Number 3, and this is where we have a lot of great resources on our website, is having your instructions in writing. And that means everything from, do your animals have special diets? Do they have pills? Are they afraid of lightning?
Yeah.
Where do they like to sleep during the day? Because even if a pet owner ends up temporarily in the hospital and somebody comes over to take care of the pets, the pets can't tell you, oh, it's 2 o'clock, I need my
Yeah.
insulin injection, or it's 4 o'clock and that's the time we eat. And by the way, we have, our food is located over here and over there, and we get 3 scoops of this and 2 scoops of that. So
And they do wear invisible watches. They do know when it is time for breakfast or dinner, right?
exactly. And so we have a 2-page and a 4-page document on the first page of our website. And it's very simple. You just click on Pet Care Instructions Workbook. You can download the 2-page, which is smaller font. You can download the 4-page, which is larger font.
Yeah.
And just keep the records updated and keep them where somebody can find them.
Well, this is a point. I mean, I know we are a paperless society, but what about a little old school? Is it okay to have something on your fridge in an envelope? So
Absolutely.
if paramedics come in or something, and somebody could be instantly notified. I mean, it's nice that our pets have IDs with our phone numbers on it, but that's not going to help if something happens to us.
Well, we have free what are called door hangers. The reason
Okay.
we went to door hangers is
Door hangers,
because
I like that.
we've actually attended some emergency care veterinary conferences, and they said, don't put anything on refrigerators. They don't work anymore because
Oh.
people have the refrigerators where magnets won't stick.
Oh, yeah. And everybody doesn't want their thumbprints and the smearing of their fingers, right? Okay.
So we
tell us about
created door hangers, and if you have an illness, you can make copies of these and put them on every outside facing door, and it says, I have these pets in my home. In case of an emergency, whether that's a fire, anything, here's who to contact in case of an emergency. Here's the name and phone number for the veterinarian. Here's the name of my pets. Of course, if they want to add a lot more information on these door hangers, they can. And we provide these. I think we have about 800,000 of these all over the country.
Nice.
We have them in vet clinics. We give them to the National Meals on Wheels folks so that when they're delivering pet food, they can give them the emergency card door hangers.
Very nice.
Senior centers. But we've got, and actually a lot of pet sitters, we hand them out to them so that they can have their clients put these on their doors. But you're right. It's very important. If you end up in the hospital and the ACO from the shelter comes over and picks up your animals and there's no instructions, those animals are going to the shelter.
Okay, so door hangers, everybody, door hangers. I mean, I have a friend I just visited who is in a senior community, and she has a beautiful dog, a puggle named Benny, and a senior cat named Miha, and she lives alone. And she's like, what do I do? And I said, I would take your pets, but have you heard about Second Chance for Pets? So I think it's something, it's being a responsible pet parent, don't you think?
Yes. Well, and the one thing that we've started the last few years is we realize that people don't have the funds to invest in a expensive estate plan.
Right.
So we're paying for this so that other pet owners can have this for free, is a link to a very simple online will where people can add their pets. And it allows people to create a legal will in 50 states and include their pets' names, include their backup caregivers. And for some people, who have made arrangements with the local rescue groups, that backup caregiver might be a local rescue group as long as they've gotten that commitment to include them as their backup caregiver. There's, many options, but it's important for people to, do this in advance.
And we're going to dive in deeper into what that's all about. But we got to pay for this show. So we're going to take a break. So everybody just sit and stay. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life Show. We're talking with Amy Shever. She's the director and founder of Second Chance for Pets. And her site, secondchanceforpets.org. And second is 2ND, chance, FOR, pets.org. She has a slew of things that are great, how to, step-by-step, how to do this and do it right. You started to talk about before the break a little bit about the fact that Second Chance for Pets has a free online will writing tool. and it meets the legal beagles scrutiny in all 50 states, correct?
That's correct. And there's actually a lot of very large organizations across the country. World Wildlife Fund is one of them. They're offering the exact same thing.
Good, good.
One of the reasons is, again, it is expensive to put together your own will and work with a lawyer. And we don't want that to be a barrier for a pet owner who, is serious about making sure that someone will take over the care of their pets in the event that they no longer can. So again, it's really simple to use, which is the only reason we're doing this, because it's simple, it's free.
We like simple.
And free's not so bad either.
Yeah. Hey, people want to know your backstory, if you would, Amy. So were you a brain surgeon? Were you a librarian before you got all into this? What led you to Second Chance for Pets?
Well, my real job, where I actually get paid, is in corporate marketing. Okay. But I have been volunteering with animal shelters and rescues for probably 30 years.
Wow.
And
you're going to heaven, and there are going to be a lot of doggies and kitties there for you.
Well, it's really hard for me to even walk into a shelter these days. It's very overwhelming for me. But I think, when I started realizing that there wasn't a solution for people who were so desperate to find something where their pets could go, and I understood that, this was a great need, and it was so much easier for me to do something in the advocacy space than foster 10 animals that I wasn't going to return to the shelter anyways. Yes.
You are mine and mine and mine and mine. Well, this is a tough task that you are doing as a volunteer. Are there ways that people can help contribute to help offset some of the cost?
Well, there's some real easy ways that help fund our programs. And again, we're all volunteers. We have no paid staff. And our biggest expenses is printing information like the door hangers.
Yeah.
And workbooks that we send to veterinary clinics and to animal rescue groups and to shelters all over the country. And there's ways people can sign up for the Amazon program if they spend on Amazon.
Oh, like the Amazon where you get what's the term for that? I know it's
Amazon Smile.
Amazon Smile. So they could mark a Second Chance for Pets as the benefactor of the little.
Exactly.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, and we have fundraisers throughout the year, and we also a lot of our funding comes from applying for grants from other organizations. And I think what's interesting is that a lot of organizations realize the great need for, having something in place, because there's more than 500,000 animals every year ending up at the shelter simply because their owners have passed away or have gone to a nursing home or become too ill to take care of them. So if we could ultimately save or prevent 500,000 animals every year from ending up at the shelter, then, it's worth every penny, right?
Oh, I agree. And at the start of the show, Amy, you started to touch a little bit about the impact the pandemic has had on pets. It seemed like in the beginning, people were just cleaning out shelters and foster groups of pets because everybody was staying in place and stuck at home. And now it seems like the shelters are filling up again. So what's your take on what's happening?
Well, there's a couple things. 10% of the animals being surrendered to shelters, there's been an increase since the pandemic started, 10% greater increase of animals where their owners have either passed away or become too ill to take care of them. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think is just has been a crisis that's just suddenly blown up is that we really need more people to volunteer in foster. And what's interesting about foster programs now is that most rescues and shelters will cover all the costs.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you have space for a couple of kittens in a bathroom, or if you have space for a couple of weeks to take in a dog, then another slot opens for a dog that needs to go into the shelter. Yeah. And this year has been a really incredibly a big crisis for shelters and rescues all over the country.
I have to shout out to my oldest sister, Karen Chahaki, which you always want to say Gesundheit after you say. She and her husband, Rick, live in Dyer, Indiana, and they're retired. And what they do is they bring in a foster dog. They have a few dogs and a cat. And she'll tell me, oh, I love this one. Oh, Debbie is so sweet. And they spend whatever, 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever. And then when the dog gets adopted, they leave Karen's house. But it's better than being in a shelter.
Absolutely. Well, the other interesting thing, and this started several years ago in San Francisco, is they have a hospice program.
Hospice?
Hospice. Instead
Okay.
of hospice, it's hospice.
Okay.
And there's hundreds of shelters and rescues all over the country that have this. And what basically it's a different kind of fostering. You take in an animal that maybe has 3 legs or has one eye or needs insulin injections or, something
Special
where
needs.
where the animal's not perfect. The shelter or rescue covers the costs, everything
Wow.
from vet care to food for the remainder of that animal's life.
Nice.
So for people now who are facing, the challenges of vet care costs, which are expensive for anybody, no matter what your income is, this is a really interesting option because
I like
you can
that.
basically take in and you're really adopting an animal, but you don't have responsibilities for the cost of that care of that animal.
So for people, especially retired or on fixed incomes, who are responsible when it comes to pet care, but they don't have fat wallets, that's
Yes.
a really good option.
Yes.
Wow. Well, what's the 411 on your pets? And you're in Northern California, right? Come on. They need a shout out. Come on.
Oh my goodness. Well, so because I work from home and I've always worked from home for 20 years, I have worked with a lot of puppy mill rescues. And so basically they've taken in animals who've lived in cages all their lives, and then they rescue them and then rehome them. The main issue with these animals is they never had vet care. So for 5 years, no vet care, no animal human bonding. And they also have really severe separation anxiety.
I bet. Yeah.
So it's like you really can't leave your house unless you have someone taking care of your pet because it's just, they just, they're very,
So who do you
dependent
have?
on having a human around.
Can you shout out a few of them that are at your house?
Oh, yeah. So we've got 3 that came from Small Breed Rescue of Eastern Tennessee, all puppy mill survivors. Tuesday, who's a Bichon poodle mix.
Tuesday? Wonder what favorite day Tuesday's day is. Okay.
It's very confusing when you take her to the vet on a Tuesday. And then Ellie Mae, who's a Pomeranian purebred. She was in a cage for 5 years. And Wally, he's our crazy, the dog that gets kicked out of the training classes. And then we have Olivia, who came from a puppy mill also in Tennessee, who walks on 3 legs. She's about 3 pounds. She's a Chihuahua. And then we have a blind Chihuahua we took in from a rescue in Oakland, California. And she was born blind to a puppy mill breeder and just ended up, as soon as he knew that she was blind, she was at the shelter.
What's the doggy's name?
Oh, that's Lulu. And it's amazing that with her blindness, that she's like the easiest one. she has like a sonar. She can find her way around.
Have nose will sniff. Well, that's
exactly.
Great. Any more? We have about 30 seconds. Let's wrap this up. What is your main message? What is your main message you'd like to share, Amy? And how, again, can people find out about Second Chance for Pets?
So we have tons of resources on our website, including the link to the free will, which is, again, legal in 50 states. The most important thing is to find one person at a minimum who has agreed to take over the care of your pets if anything should happen to you. And I think, you can talk to people you meet at the dog park. You can talk to your vet techs, groomers, pet sitters, your veterinarian, but have these conversations and you will find somebody that will be a good fit to help you with your pets.
All right, everybody, please dash over to Second Chance for Pets. That's 2ND chance, the number 4, pets.org. And hey, that's it for our show today. It goes by fast. Pause up to our special guest, of course, the fabulous Flo From and the miracle working Amy Shever. I also want to give a special shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Tevra, the makers of great pet products. You can get a 20% discount. Just go to tevrapet.com, enter the code Arden20 at checkout. And you all, I want to thank all of you pet pals for tuning in, and to all you stations airing our show from coast to coast. Subscribe. It's easy. Go to fourleggedlife.com for details. So until next time, this is Arden Moore saying to all you 2, 3, and 4-leggers out there, paws up.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life.
Four-Legged Life.
Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content.
Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life.